The Saudi Arabia-led coalition forces on Tuesday attacked the Mokalla port in Yemen over alleged arms shipments and combat vehicles arriving from the UAE for the separatist Southern Transitional Council Group of Yemen, which recently seized vast areas of the country. The UAE has rejected the Saudi and Yemeni allegations and expressed surprise over the strikes by the coalition. Yemen has issued warning to the UAE forces to leave the country within 24 hours. Now, these developments have raised eyebrows across the globe and brought attention to the Gulf nation after the Gaza war. Muhammad Absarul Hassan gets you more in the next report.
The rift among Gulf countries has widened as the Saudi-led coalition launched an air strike on Mokalla port in Yemen, targeting what they described as arms shipment and combat vehicles arriving from the UAE. Footage from the port showed dozens of military vehicles and pickups, several of which were burnt out and smoldering as workers doused them down.
What happened today is unacceptable to God or His messenger. At around 3:30 or 4 in the morning, they bombed the port, as you can see, and we were affected. Our windows were shattered, the doors were broken, the children were terrified, and the women frightened.
The attack follows a warning from the coalition to the separatist Southern Transitional Council (STC) group, urging them not to take military action in Hadramaut province. Yemen's Saudi-backed Presidential Council has accused the UAE of supplying assistance to the STC, which was the focus of the coalition strike. Yemen's Presidential Council head, Rashid Al-Alami, has demanded that all UAE forces must leave Yemen within 24 hours.
While we appreciate the previous role of the United Arab Emirates and its efforts as a member of the coalition to support legitimacy led by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, its role has unfortunately become directed against the sons of our great people through explicit support for rebellion and fueling internal strife in a manner that threatens our society and stability, the cohesion of our institutions and our unity, and causes harm to our dear people.
Saudi Arabia has emphasized that its national security is a red line that it will defend at any cost. The Saudi Ministry of Foreign Affairs released a statement urging the UAE to take the necessary steps to preserve relations between the two nations. Meanwhile, UAE has rejected the allegations against it by Saudi Arabia and the Yemeni government. In a statement, the UAE expressed disappointment over the Saudi accusations and was surprised by the recent air strikes in Yemen. In recent weeks, separatists backed by the UAE, seeking to revive the independent state of South Yemen, have made significant territorial gains. Experts say these advances have embarrassed Saudi Arabia, a regional powerhouse and the primary backer of the internationally recognized Yemeni government. The Saudi-led coalition had previously warned that it would support Yemen's government in any military confrontation with separatist forces, urging them to withdraw from recently seized territories in Hadramaut and Mohra governorates. The latest strike comes days after reported Saudi air raids on separatist positions in resource-rich Hadramaut. Muhammad Absarul Hassan reporting for DD India.
And joining us is Ambassador Anil Kumar Trigunayat. He is a former Indian envoy to Jordan, Libya and Malta. Ambassador, welcome to DD India. Now, for the benefit of viewers joining us from around the world, what's the root cause of the latest escalation?
Well, I think this is not from now. There have been differences of opinion between Saudi Arabia and UAE on how to proceed in the Yemen war and also in the Sudan, where both appear to be supporting the opposing sides. You remember that in 2015, when Saudi Arabia, along with all the Islamic Alliance forces of 27 countries, attacked Yemen at the time against the Houthis. And the fight has been going on for quite some time. But in 2019, United Arab Emirates decided to pull out of that coalition. And since then, there have been differences of opinion, and UAE has been supporting the Southern Transition Council, with arms, ammunition, and other support. Because southern part of Yemen, as you know, is a highly strategic area. There are important ports which are very, very strategic. So essentially, it is creating a strategic influence and garnering their own geopolitical interest in whichever way. Now, the recent the attacks by the Transitional Council and grabbing of the territory in Hadramaut and all is basically going nearer to the Saudi border. So therefore, because that area borders with Saudi Arabia, and therefore Saudi Arabia has said that this is a red line, and it is earlier it was also problematic because there was this Al Qaeda of Arabian Peninsula, AQAP were also around that. So that was one of the reasons that the Saudi Arabians basically got into this war, tried to clean that up. But this time, once again, they feel that this is a red line. Secondly, within the region, it has been a given that Saudi Arabia essentially is considered to be a leader, being the largest economy, most powerful country. And the other countries, brotherly they are called, but they continue to pay some kind of obeisance. And now there has been a certain challenge from the UAE in that sense of the Saudi overall authority with what we are witnessing. And they both are looking at their own interests in that sense. And so we are facing a very, very peculiar situation. As you know, the Saudi Arabia and Iran have patched up and they have become much more closer in many a sense, while that was the biggest rivalry of the region, apart from the Iran and Israel rivalry. But now this rivalry, in a way, we can't call it rivalry, but it is definitely a competition for greater geopolitical influence in the Afro-Arab context. In Sudan, we know that both sides are supporting the other. And as you know, the Mohammed bin Salman, Crown Prince, when he went to Washington recently, he also asked President Trump to intervene in this with the Emiratis, not to support the factions in Sudan or in Yemen. Now that is it's a problematic issue, but it is also to be seen in a larger regional context. Because now what is happening is that only last week we have seen that Israel has recognized Somaliland. Now that is also an adjacent area just across Yemen. And that's why now Houthis are going to be far more active in Somaliland. And Somaliland already the UAE has its base. And UAE is also an Abrahamic Accord country, as you know, one of the closest to Israel. In that sense, has continued to remain engaged with them very, very strongly. So that context also, or an angle way you can look at it, whereas Saudi Arabia has refused to join Abraham Accords until and unless there are the Palestinian issues resolved.
Ambassador, you spoke about interest. Now, hearing you, one get the sense that we are talking here about a potential or possible Saudi-UAE rivalry impacting Yemen. So what are Saudi Arabia's and UAE's interests in Yemen? Why are they on opposing sides?
Oh, because both the countries are essentially looking at retaining their geopolitical interest in the region. For Saudi Arabia, Yemen is actually bordering, and there have been problems of terrorism. There have been also issues of the Houthis. Houthis are considered as terrorist groups, so that fighting has been going on. Houthis have also attacked the Saudi oil installations, and it only stopped after there was some kind of a rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And Iran intervened along with Oman to ask the Houthis not to attack. But then in this fight that was going on against the Houthis, both UAE and Saudi Arabia also fell apart. And so one started supporting, and as I mentioned, there are those strategic ports in the Horn and the Red Sea, and which are very useful for Emiratis essentially, because as you know, they have this DP World and the big companies which are looking around for ports in the Northwest Indian Ocean region as well. So these are maritime strategic interests that both the countries have, and they want to maintain that.
Fair enough. And talking about the Houthis, Ambassador, the new fighting pits the Southern Transitional Council against the forces of the internationally recognized government and its allied tribes, even as they are both members of the camp fighting against the Houthi rebels in Yemen's broader civil war. So am I correct in saying that this only strengthens the hands of the Iran-backed Houthis?
Well, Houthis have been very strong. I mean, of all the 4H that Iran has the proxies as, the Houthis have continued to survive and given quite a run to even the Americans and everybody else, and hit Israel, like in fact, Israeli airports also. So Houthis continue to remain pretty strong in that sense of the term, but definitely a division there between the two, and especially if the Southern Transition Council, which since 2019 actually has been trying to fight the coalition forces in Yemen, try to get their more influence. But in recent advances that have gone, that have crossed some kind of a red line for the Saudis, and
Okay.
sort of an embarrassment, because 26, 27 countries fighting together, and then now these another rebel group going and taking over all these strategic locations, that becomes very embarrassing for them. And when they find
Indeed.
that it is being supported by another brotherly country, that adds more complexity to it.
Indeed. Two quick questions, Ambassador, before we wrap up our discussion. One about the US and the other about India. Now, US President Trump claims to have ended 8 wars. He's working to end a ninth, between Ukraine and Russia. But why has he not shown any hurry to end the Yemen war, number one? And number two, talking about India, what are India's stakes in the region really?
Actually, in Yemen war, he has bought peace with the Houthis, if you remember. I mean, they came initially to attack, and then the Houthis counterattacked, and eventually some kind of a peace was bought with the Houthis by the Americans and the British combined, because they couldn't do much to them. So, resolving that war is very difficult, because the Houthis are not listening to anyone apart from Iran to a great extent. But Iranians say that we don't control them. But as far as Saudi Arabia is concerned, I think the Houthis were tamed a little bit as far as Saudi Arabia's interests are concerned. So they're not doing that there. But at the same time, the Americans know that they can't do anything about it, because they have the American, US, Iran equation also in the picture. And you know that they bombed Iran, and today, until and unless the Iran and US start talking, you can't see an end to the
Right.
Houthi actions that are being taken.
All right, we leave it there for now. Ambassador Trigunai, thank you for joining us and sharing your perspectives with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Much
Thank you.
appreciated.